All right. If you're listening to this, then thank you for listening to this. I will be going over a little bit about the timeline in Better Call Saul and try and explain the timeline to all you listeners and viewers as best I can. So let me just flip on the timeline here that I have made, and here we go. I will go as early back as we can see Jimmy's history, which is in 1992, where he's running these con games with his friend Marco, that eventually ends up dying, and they are just having a blast running these con games in Chicago. And then I don't know why this came all the way down there, but in 1997, that's when Jimmy gets his bar and his license and the degree of law, the law degree from the University of American Samoa, and he tries to join HHM, but Chuck, his brother, just won't have it. So that's that, and this is kind of a few years after that we jump into season 1 of Better Call Saul. He has obviously not stayed at Hamlin McGill as the mailman anymore, considering he has the law degree. So, and they won't give him a job. So then we start here at May 13th. We start in Better Call Saul, where he's working as a public defender. That's May 13th in 2002. And things is, not going well, as he's an underpaid public defender, not getting a lot of money from that. And he's also famous face here that he's showing up in season 1 is Tuco, of course, that he gets to be acquainted with. And yeah, then it was just the check that shows that he's not getting the money that he's inclined to. This was regarding the scene where he had defended 3 people at the same time, but is only paid for 1 because they were all tried at the same time. So yeah, that was a kind of that. And major events of season 1 is maybe that he gets the $30,000 as hush money for his trouble regarding the Kettlemans, and he's also introduced to Mike Ehrmantraut. And another major event that's happening in season 1 is that Chuck is struggling with his electromagnetic sensitivity disorder and is dealing with that. And by the end of the season 1, then Jimmy starts to focus more on elderly clients and starts building the Sandpiper case that he eventually has to hand over to HHM. By the way, a nice tip there to Breaking Bad, if you can remember the scene where he is telling Francesca to dump the trash from the maculated paper in separate dumpsters at least 5 miles apart. That is because that is how he was able to piece together the case against Sandpiper with going dumpster diving. Then that's that. After that, he heads back to Cicero to pull one more level of cons with his old friend Marco that I just talked about, and Marco unfortunately dies, and Jimmy returns to Albuquerque and tells Mike that he no longer plans on holding himself back. And at the end of season 1, though, then we're in late June 30th, 2002. That's the season 1 there timeline. Then we jump to season 2, and we start almost right off as we got a couple of weeks time skip because we start at July 18th, 2002. And here's just another great season. We're doing some low-level shenanigans with Kim, and Jimmy accepts the job at Davis in Maine. As you can remember, it did not go too well, considering that he eventually did everything he could to get fired, but not fired. So they had to ask him what he wanted and what he wanted to leave. And Tuco ends up in prison with time reduced. And eventually, then Jimmy gets himself fired from Davis and Maine so he can keep his signing bonus, as he had read in the bylaws so swiftly. But I would say the biggest event in season 2 is that Mike tries to actually kill Hector Salamanca with a sniper rifle, but is then distracted by the car horn and is left, by a note is left in the windshield of the car which just states note, and this is kind of like Gus Fring's introduction to the show, because he is the one that has left the note there. We jump further to season 3, which takes place in the time span of September 21st, 2002 and March 22nd, 2003. So there's actually no time skip between season 3 and season 2 of Better Call Saul, because it just picks up right where it left off. And this is when Mike gets introduced to the Los Pollos Hermanos drug kingpin Gustavo Fring, and finds out that he was the one who left the note, and gets more in contact with him, and eventually he's going to become Gustavo's right-hand man. Then we have the classic episode of Chicanery, which picks up at February 2003, where Chuck takes Jimmy to court over his treachery. But he is not able to win, and Chuck is able to get Jimmy suspended for the Bar Association for a year. But this process, it's really revealed that his electromagnetic sensitivity is all in his head, and creating a bad PR and bad rep for Chuck, since it kind of states that he's not fit to run the law firm either, right? And in March 2003, Nacho successfully manages to sabotage Hector Salamanca by replacing the nitroglycerin pills with fakes, and which leads to that Hector gets the stroke, which lands him in the wheelchair, unable to speak, or gets speak impaired, whatever is the most correct there to use. And we get to Better Call Saul season 4, which there is also no time skip, as this takes place from March 23rd, 2003 to March 22nd, 2004. So it's actually a year. This is maybe the longest span of a season, since it takes place actually over an entire year. Yeah. Where Jimmy attempts, this. It starts off with Jimmy attempting this Hummel figurine racket, while Mike gets added to the Madrigal electromotive payroll, and Gus hires a doctor to keep Hector alive, but only barely. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want Hector to get too comfortable in his wheelchair there. Gus also takes Nacho into his services as an unwilling double-in agent, but as he put it later, that Nacho is a dog that has bitten every owner that he has had, so he has actually no intention of leaving Nacho go. And Jimmy has this racket with selling burner phones to criminals. Kim joins up with Swikart and Coakley. And these are kind of the major events that are going on here in the beginning of season 4. And then we have a timeline. Then we have a time skip in the middle of the season, which jumps 9 months forward in time to the episode Something Stupid, which then takes place in January of 2004, where Kim and Jimmy has drifted apart, but get closer than ever when Jimmy needs Kim's help getting Huel Babino out of some legal trouble. And this is also the introduction to kind of Huel Well, I know that he's like been in there before when he's like selling the phones, but this is when Huel starts to like get more of a presence in the show. Um, and then Lalo eventually arrives in Albuquerque to take over all the drug operations on behalf of the Salamanca cartel. Then in the end of late March, April, end of late March, early April maybe, in the season, then Jimmy eventually gets his law license back and decides to practice as Saul Goodman, which is then another special event, considering that this signifies the change from Jimmy to Saul. Then we have the last season, which took place from April 04 to June 18th 04, which is now where Jimmy is like becoming Saul and going full time to represent low-level street criminals and making a career of that and making bank doing that and becoming a friend of the cartel. And then we also like have like Crazy 8's introduction here to Better Call Saul. If you remember Crazy 8 from Breaking Bad, where Lalo serves as like a Crazy 8's attorney, and it's this role that where Jimmy. It's in this role and this scene that like Jimmy meets Hank and Steven Gomez for the first time on April 8th, 2004. And Mike is spiraling downwards after having killed Werner. It's kind of like worth mentioning here that this episode where Gus takes Mike to Mexico. It's like maybe the longest spanning episode, considering it took place over 3 weeks. One episode that took place over 3 weeks. Mike eventually recovers from the vicious beating somewhere south of the border in Mexico. As you remember, then he was like attacked by these guys, and Mike was really looking for the fight. He was looking to get beaten up. And then that's that. And then we have the $7 million bond, which Lalo has to get from Mexico, from the cartel, to get released from prison. And he sends Jimmy as the bagman, and that's also like a great episode, the bagman episode, where Jimmy is like hustling or like struggling with like walking over the desert with Mike. Since their car broke down after Mike went Rambo or sniper and like killed all those cartel guys, and in the end, then they make it, and Kim, he tells Kim everything about this what he did to get the money and what happened in the desert. I don't remember if he actually told her that Mike killed all these guys, but he said that he protected him. And Jimmy and Kim end up plotting together to take down Howard and Lalo, and Lalo survives the assassination attempt from Nacho, and that's kind of like that. That's how that episode ended, and then at the end of that, then we are in June 2004. So we got like kind of like the big time skip to go, or big time ground to cover, since in Breaking Bad, Saul is first introduced to Jesse and White in season 2 of Breaking Bad in December 2008. And the flash forward scenes that we see Jimmy or Saul as Gene in managing the Cinnabon, that takes place in 2015-ish. So he's already been like doing that for like 5 years when we see those black and white scenes. So yeah, I guess that was that. Like, and I hope you could like follow what I was like saying there. And regarding like what we have like of unanswered questions, if like is then what happens to him in this place in Omaha. Where did he get the diamonds that was tapered in under the drywall in his office, and the money that was like in the top of the on the loft barriers in his office. Where did this come from? And furthermore, what happens to Kim? And if we will ever see like a happy ending for Jimmy. I don't think we will though, but I am excited to see the next season when it comes out. Thank you for watching, guys.